I thought I was just doing a small favor. Drop a coworker off, make sure she got inside safe, then drive home and forget the whole night ever happened. But the second her mother looked at me in that warm doorway and said, "Would you like to stay over?" my chest went tight, like I had stepped into a story I did not know how to leave. My name is Ryan Carter. I am 27, and I work as a sales representative at a mid-sized tech company in Seattle. My days are calls, notes, and numbers. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill. Plain walls, a quiet couch, a stack of half-read books that make me feel smarter than I am. I am not the loud guy at work. I keep my head down and try not to be noticed. That was the plan for the company Christmas party too. The party was at a trendy bar downtown. Exposed brick, snowflake lights, holiday music mixed into dance beats. By 10, everyone was laughing too loud and talking too close. I stood near the edge with one beer, checking my phone like I had somewhere else to be. I did not. Was about to leave when I saw her. Sophie Turner from IT was slumped at the bar, her head resting on folded arms. Dark hair spread across the counter. Empty glasses nearby. She did not look just drunk. She looked hurt. Sophie and I were not close. We nodded in hallways, traded quick jokes. That was it. Still, something made me stop. People were leaving. No one checked on her. I told myself to go. She is an adult. It is not your job. But I thought about how it feels to sit alone with pain and hope someone asks if you are okay. So I walked back. "Hey, Sophie," I said softly. I touched her shoulder. "You all right?" She lifted her head slowly. Mascara smudged. A tired smile that did not reach her eyes. "Ryan," she said, surprised. She tried to stand, but her knees gave a little. I caught her arm. "I can Uber," she mumbled, reaching for her phone. It slipped and hit the floor. She laughed, then the sound broke into a quiet sob. That was it. I could not leave her there. "I'll drive you home," I said. "It's not a big deal." Outside, Seattle was cold and quiet. Snow fell slow. She leaned on me to the car, saying sorry over and over. I told her she was safe. The heater blasted warm air as I drove toward West Seattle. Jazz played low on the radio. She stared out the window, then whispered, "Why does everything have to be so hard?" At a red light, she broke. I did not try to fix her. I just squeezed her arm. "I'm here," I said. Her house sat at the end of a quiet street, warm light glowing inside. I walked her to the door and rang the bell. A woman opened it, silver in her hair, worry in her eyes. She pulled Sophie close, then looked at me. "Thank you," she said softly. "Would you like to stay over?" For a moment, I thought I heard her wrong. Stay over, like this was normal. Like it was not almost midnight, and I was not standing in a stranger's house with a woman. I barely knew asleep on the couch behind me. "I should go," I said out of habit. Leaving was what I was good at. Sophie's mother shook her head gently. "Please," she said, "just for a minute. Let me thank you properly." She held out her hand. "I'm Ellen." "Ryan," I replied, shaking it. Her grip was steady, but her fingers trembled like she had been holding herself together all night. She guided me inside. The house was warm and smelled like cinnamon. A Christmas tree glowed softly in the corner. Sophie was curled on the couch under a blanket. Already asleep, her face finally peaceful. Seeing her like that made something twist in my chest. Ellen led me into the kitchen and poured coffee into 2 mugs. We sat at a small wooden table under a yellow light that made everything feel quieter. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The only sound was a clock ticking on the wall. "Thank you," Ellen said again, wrapping her hands around her mug. Most people would have walked away. I shrugged, suddenly uncomfortable. She needed help. Ellen nodded, then stared down into her coffee. My husband passed away 2 months ago, she said. Heart attack. Very sudden. Her voice stayed calm, but it felt thin, like it could break. I felt my throat tighten. I'm sorry. Sophie found him, she continued. She tried to save him. She stopped there, like she did not need to say more. Suddenly, everything made sense. The drinking. The pain in Sophie's eyes. The way she had fallen apart in my car. She won't talk about it, Ellen said quietly. She pretends she's fine. I nodded slowly. I lost my grandfather a few years ago, I said. It's different, but I know how grief sticks with you. Ellen reached across the table and touched my hand, just for a second. Then you understand. We sat in silence again, but it felt heavy and honest. When I finally stood to leave, Ellen walked me to the door and hugged me tight. Outside, the cold hit my face. As I drove home, one thought would not leave me. Sophie was not just a coworker anymore. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. I stared at the ceiling of my apartment, replaying the night over and over. Sophie crying in my car. Ellen's tired eyes, the quiet kitchen with the ticking clock. It felt like I had stepped into someone else's life and left a piece of myself there. At work, the office buzzed with stories from the party. People laughed about bad dancing and blurry photos. I tried to act normal, but my focus kept drifting. Sophie's desk was empty, her screen dark, no coffee cup. I sent her a short email about a work issue, then immediately regretted it. A reply popped up saying she was out today. By lunch, my chest felt tight. I picked up my phone, typed a message, erased it. Typed another, erased that too. Finally, I sent something simple. Asterisk, if you ever want to grab coffee or take a walk, let me know. No pressure. Asterisk, I shoved my phone into my drawer and tried to forget about it. I failed. At 4 o'clock, my phone buzzed. Asterisk, thank you for last night. Really? Asterisk, that was all. But it loosened something inside me. She was not angry. She was still there. The next day, Sophie was back. Hair pulled back. Fresh makeup. She looked put together, but I could still see the tiredness in her eyes. When our eyes met, she gave a small, serious nod. Later, she came to my desk, clicking a pen between her fingers. Can we talk? She asked quietly. Yeah, I said. My mom told me you stayed for coffee, she said. She was glad you did. I was too. She hesitated, then added, she wants you to come over for dinner tonight, and I want to talk. My heart beat faster. Okay, I said. That evening, I showed up at Maple Street with a simple bottle of wine. The house glowed warm again. Dinner was easy and quiet at first. Then Sophie talked about her dad, about the memories, about the pain. Later, she asked me to step outside. On the porch, under falling snow, she admitted how bad things had been. I listened. I stayed. For the first time, she did not feel alone. After that night on the porch, something between Sophie and me shifted. Not in a loud way. It was quiet, like a door opening slowly. At work, we did not suddenly become obvious. We were careful, but we were not strangers anymore. She started joining me for short walks during lunch. Just around the block, gray sky, cold air. Sometimes we talked about work, sometimes we did not talk at all. And somehow, that felt just as important. One Friday evening, my phone buzzed as I was shutting down my computer. Asterisk beer after work. There's something I want to show you. Asterisk, it was from Sophie. We met at a small pub nearby, the kind with soft lights and worn booths. She looked nervous when I sat down, tapping her fingers against her glass. After a few minutes, she reached into her bag and slid a folded paper across the table. It's an application, she said. I opened it. A grief support group. Weekly meetings. I filled it out 3 times, she said quietly, and torn it up 3 times. That takes courage, I said. She swallowed. I'm tired of pretending I'm fine. If you want someone to go with you the first time, I said, I will. Her eyes lifted, surprised. You would? Yeah. She let out a breath that sounded like relief. Okay. From there, the night felt easier. She talked. I listened. I shared things I rarely shared. We walked out together into the cold, and she hugged me tight. The next week, she went to her first meeting. She texted me before she went in. I'm scared. I texted back, you're not alone. After that, our lives began to overlap. Coffee after work. Helping Ellen with small things around the house. Sophie laughing more, even if the pain still came in waves. One afternoon, as I fixed a loose step on the porch, Sophie sat beside me and said, "My dad would have liked you." A few days later, she asked me something that felt bigger than it sounded. "Would you go fishing with me?" she asked. "At the lake, my dad used to take me." I nodded without thinking. I'd go. And in that moment, I knew I was choosing to stay again. The fishing trip happened on a clear Saturday morning, the kind Seattle rarely gives. The sky was pale blue, and the air felt calm instead of heavy. When I pulled up to Maple Street, Ellen was already waiting with a small cooler and a soft smile. Sophie came out holding 2 fishing rods. She looked nervous but determined. On the drive to Lake Washington, she stared out the window, quiet. After a few minutes, she spoke. "If I get weird today," she said, "just let me." "You don't have to be anything around me," I replied. At the lake, the water was smooth and bright. We rented a small boat and drifted away from the dock. The quiet felt different here. Gentle Sophie handled the rod like she had done it 1,000 times. I copied her, clumsy but trying. When she caught the first fish, she laughed. A real laugh. It made my chest warm. "This place used to hurt," she admitted later, "but today feels peaceful. Like he'd want me here." "I think he would," I said. We ate lunch on the boat, trading small stories. The line between friendship and something more blurred without either of us naming it. That evening, she asked me to come back to the house. Ellen gave us space. Sophie sat beside me on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. "You didn't try to fix me," she said. "You just stayed." Then she took my hand. Slow, careful. "I feel safe with you," she whispered. I kissed her gently, like asking permission. She kissed me back. Then the hallway creaked. Ellen stood there, surprised. The moment froze. "I just want to know you're safe," Ellen said softly. "I am," Sophie replied. Ellen looked at me. "Are you here out of pity?" "No," I said. "I'm here because I want to be." Ellen nodded, tears in her eyes. "Then stay." And in that moment, everything changed. The months that followed were not perfect. Sophie still had days when grief hit her without warning. A song in a store. A smell that reminded her of her dad. When it happened, she would go quiet. I learned not to rush her or try to fix it. I learned to sit beside her and let the wave pass. She kept going to the support group, not because she was weak, but because she was brave enough to face it. Ellen started seeing a counselor too. The house on Maple Street felt lighter, like air had finally started moving through it again. Sophie and I took things slow. We did not rush into labels. Date nights were simple. Tacos near the water. Walks through Pike Place with the smell of bread and coffee in the air. Movie nights on my couch, where she always stole my blanket and fell asleep with her head on my chest. Every time she did, I felt grateful. A year earlier, she did not know if she would still be here. One evening, close to the anniversary of her dad's death, Sophie asked me to come to the porch with her. The night was quiet. She lit a small candle and set it on the railing. "For my dad," she whispered. Then she looked at me. "I used to think this porch was where my life broke," she said. "Now it's where it started again." I squeezed her hand, unable to speak. "I love you," she said, simple and steady. "I love you too," I replied. Behind us, Ellen stood in the doorway, wiping tears from her cheeks, smiling. Later, Sophie rested her head on my shoulder and smiled softly. "Do you remember what my mom said to you that first night?" "Yeah," I said. "Would you like to stay over?" She nodded. "You did." And as I held her there, I knew staying had changed everything. Life did not suddenly become easy after that. Grief does not disappear just because love shows up. Sophie still had moments when the weight of her loss pressed down hard. But now, she did not face it alone. Some nights, she would wake from a bad dream and sit up, breathing fast. I would pull her close and remind her where she was. Other times, she would talk about her dad like he was still just down the hall, fixing something, humming to himself. I learned that loving her meant holding space for both the sadness and the healing. Work changed too. We were still professional, but there was a quiet understanding between us. A look across the room, a shared smile. After work, we built a life made of small, steady things. Cooking dinner together, grocery runs, laughing over burnt toast and bad movies. One afternoon, Sophie and I sat on the porch again, the same place where everything began. The boards creaked softly under our weight. The air smelled like rain. She leaned into me and sighed. "I used to think staying meant getting stuck," she said. "Now I know it means choosing." I kissed the top of her head. "I choose you." She smiled, then looked toward the door where Ellen stood watching us with that familiar, soft expression. Ellen had grown stronger too. Not because the pain was gone, but because she let herself feel it and still kept moving. That night, after Ellen went to bed, Sophie curled up beside me on the couch and traced small circles on my hand. "You know," she said quietly, "if you hadn't stayed that night, I don't know where I'd be." I thought about the man I was before, the one who always left early, the one who kept his life small. Then I looked at her, alive and breathing beside me. "Staying was the easiest choice I ever made," I said. Sophie smiled and closed her eyes. Safe. Sometimes love does not start with sparks or grand plans. Sometimes it starts with a simple question in a warm doorway at midnight. "Would you like to stay over?" And sometimes staying changes everything.